this video, we're going to discuss the timed event behavior. Alright, so as you can see, I'm downtown at a little block party, having a little fun. There's some dancing, some music, and in a few seconds we should see some fireworks kick off in the distance. There we go. Fantastic. We should see the finale start any second. Happy New Year! Yay! Alright, so let's take a look and see how that was all put together. And just for visibility's sake, I'm going to switch it to afternoon so we can see what we're doing. So you can see the block party's down here. My player character is right about here, and there's a trigger zone in front of me. Now I use the trigger zone. You could use a button. You could use anything that triggers something is fine. But in my case, I just have a trigger zone, and it is linked to this very first box. Now this first box has the timed event behavior attached to it, and so do each one of these boxes, incidentally. And so they're basically just daisy chained. They're linked one after the other all the way down the line until it gets to the last box and triggers that finale piece at the end, which we'll look at in a second. So obviously it's a behavior that triggers an event at a timed interval. So in other words, as soon as it's triggered, it waits a number of seconds and then it does something, and it can actually trigger multiple things. In my case, each one of these boxes is triggering two things to start out with, right? So it's triggering the particle that's attached to it, which is just one particle above, and then the box next to it, which has its own timed event. And then that just, it's a domino effect. It just continues to trigger the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So let's walk through the behavior itself and the parameters for the behavior. So we have the event text. That would be just some text that shows up at the very bottom of the screen when the event is triggered. In my case, I chose not to do that. I thought it would be distracting, but you could have that if that's important. You have the event count. Now that is not how many events is it going to trigger. In my case, I'm triggering 2 events on most of these boxes. That's not necessary. Like, it's not that, it's how many times is it going to be triggered. So in other words, if I wanted the firework to kick off twice, then I might set it to 2 or 3 or whatever it is. But in my case, I just want each firework to be set off one time. So that's the event count. How many times is it going to trigger that particular event? The event delay is after it's triggered, how many seconds should it wait before it triggers that event? And I varied mine up. Some of these have 2 seconds, some of them have 3 seconds. Kind of mixed it up so it wasn't so precise to make it look a little nicer. We have the visibility drop down. Our options are hide or show. So in my case, all of these objects are not visible in the start of the level, but they become visible when they're triggered. So I'm showing them, but I could just as easily have hidden them at a certain interval if I wanted to do that. In my case, it made more sense, obviously, to show them. And then lastly, we have the sound effect, which is the fireworks sound that you heard popping off at each firework. Okay. So I know it looks a little crazy because there's a lot of logic links, going every which way. But like I said, there's really only one logic link per box. There's 15 boxes, so 15 individual particles above. Now, each one of these particles is named something different, and that's important. What I found is that if I wasn't careful with my naming convention, then what would happen is it would think that it already triggered. Like if I had 2 that were named P1 and it already triggered one of them, it may not trigger the second one. So make sure that each thing that you're triggering is named something unique, and that'll help sort it out, make sure. And then the other thing I'll give you just as a tip is take your time setting this up, especially something like this that's very elaborate. Don't try to take on too much at once. Do a little bit, test it, do a little bit more, test it, and that's going to help you save a lot of time, save a lot of sanity, because believe me, it took a couple iterations to get this just how I wanted it. And it's probably going to take you, if you're going to do something really elaborate like this, it might take you a couple tries to get it right. So just be patient with it and take small steps towards success. Okay. And then lastly, when we get to the last box, I'm just going to circle over here and click on our logic link. So we actually have multiple things happening simultaneously. So it's going to trigger all of these lines simultaneously after X number of seconds, 3 seconds. So it hits this box, waits 3 seconds, and then it triggers that final finale. And what it's doing is it's triggering the sign. It's triggering, I think there's like 4 different particles for the fireworks, and then it's triggering all 3 of these lights, really just so you could see the sign from that distance in the dark. So it makes it more visible. But you can trigger more than one thing. And in fact, you can trigger multiple things if you really want to, all at the same time. But that's how you would trigger a sequence of events with the timed event behavior. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned anything new, I would appreciate if you were to click the like button down below. If you're new here or if you just haven't subscribed yet, we just exceeded 400 subscribers, which I was really hoping we would do before the end of the year. So thank you guys so much for that. It means a lot to me. Please be sure to click the subscribe button below if you haven't done so already. And then lastly, if you'd like a notification for whenever new videos are posted, I don't keep a regular schedule, so be sure to click the bell icon. That'll notify you when anything new is available for you. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. Thank you so much for joining me this year. Can't wait to see what we can create in the next year. And bye for now.